Anyways, in this argument discussion, we're going to talk about why I don't think fan projects are such a good idea, especially when they rip directly off of Nintendo, and Nerdieo has different opinions from me.
Mostly because what we were discussing earlier, you were saying they shouldn't be using the names like Metroid or Pokemon in the title.
Yes.
But when you brought up that fact, there's nothing else besides, like, take Pokemon Uranium, for example. There's nothing else except the word Pokemon being used in the game. Besides that, Pokemon are 100% original. Names, characters, title, everything's original, and I feel like that goes against fair use of just copyright in general.
True, but for that game, I'm only defending the trademark. I'm just saying, for that game, they should just change up the names. They worked hard after all. So I'm not...
But that's what they did. They have completely 100% original names, of course, besides Pokemon. But if you're gonna want to go with the legal trademark that you brought up, they would have to rip off something like Pokemon X and Y or Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. There has been no such a thing as Pokemon Uranium, and seeing how there probably isn't going to be, this is pretty much 100% original. And of course, 100% fair use. Nintendo has no right to take down the project.
Yeah, I can't argue too much for the Pokemon. My argument is actually more towards the Super Mario 64 remake and the Metroid 2 remake. It was Metroid 2, right?
Yeah, another Metroid 2 remake, A and 2R.
Assuming the Metroid 2 remake is very close to the original, that's where I had to draw the line. I mean,
but your defense was that a game that got taken down was Twilight Princess HD.
Oh yeah, that too.
It was a fan-made version, but they took it down, of course, because the title was coming up in the future. But seeing how there is no Metroid 2 HD remake,
you never know.
Super Mario 64 HD remake, I don't see why Nintendo would take these down. I mean, there's still ROMs out there, the original games that they have out there. And I feel like the ROMs compete more with the virtual console sales than actual HD remakes do.
The ROMs are harder to take down, though. They keep uploading it to different sites.
But they did it easily through Cool ROMs. They took down everything Nintendo related through Cool ROMs. And I don't see how they can't visit places like Dope ROMs, Emu Paradise, or Love ROMs to take down all of their Nintendo mods like they did with Cool ROMs. They did it so easily.
Well, certain sites obey while others refuse. Like, they don't take it down as easily.
But refusing wouldn't be an option in this case. This is Nintendo. They can send out their lawyers so easily to take the content down, and Emu Paradise would have to obey. They have nothing in their defense but to obey.
Yeah, for ROMs it doesn't make as much sense. But let's focus a little bit more for the fan projects.
Yeah. I will admit, I was drifting a bit off.
First of all, everybody wants a Mother 3 USA translation. However, I played the fan translation ROM. I have no need to actually buy the physical game when it comes out because I played the ROM. So if a fan project makes a better game than Nintendo, I'm not going to buy the official Nintendo game. I'm going to just play that free fan project.
But there was no Mother 3 coming out in the first place.
So far.
Nintendo has even recognized this by them making a parody somewhat skit in the beginning of E3 of 2013.
They did that for Star Fox too.
Exactly.
But and look what comes.
The only Star Fox remake that has ever existed was 64 3D. That's it. That is the only remake. Other than that, every Star Fox game has always been new, such as Garden Zero.
So far, and I don't think too many people like that game.
No, it wasn't as great as I thought it'd be, but that's besides the point.
All I'm saying is, if you love a Nintendo IP, why do you have to copy everything from it? Name, graphics, concept. Just change it out to your own thing.
Alright.
Nintendo cannot come after you then.
Alright, but what about Mother 4? Nintendo specifically stated, not Nintendo, I'm sorry. Creator of Earthbound and Mother, the creator of the series, he said if there ever were to be a Mother 4, he would actually view happily upon it and would actually consider playing it himself.
Well, Nintendo is combining their handheld and consoles. Who knows what games we're going to get for the Nintendo NX. They brought back Mother 0 or Mother 1 or whatever it was. And they recently did Mother 2 as well. They might be slowly bringing back the series. Who knows?
But those are just as virtual console titles. Even though it is called, like they gave it the rebranding of Earthbound Beginnings, it was still recognized as a virtual console title. It wasn't viewed as a brand new game. Nothing was touched. It is still in the virtual console area of the eShop.
I'm just saying you can't predict the future when it comes to titles. They could bring back...
I'm not saying I'm predicting the future.
They can bring back their titles, and if people make fan projects of it, why would you want to buy Nintendo's version if the fan projects are better?
But then, here's the thing. Why would the creator of Earthbound say that he would gladly play someone else's Mother 4 if he planned on making the game?
Basically, Nintendo would be losing future money if they ever planned on making a Mother 4. Or there would be confusion.
But they can't do that with without the creator's consent.
So he actually owns that IP?
He does own the IP. Ape Incorporated owns the IP of Earthbound.
Okay, fair enough for that. Oh wait, if he owns the IP and Nintendo doesn't own it, then can only he shut it down?
Only he can shut it down, yeah, but he views happily upon it.
So basically you're saying Mother 4 is safe?
No, not necessarily. Because keep in mind, Pokemon belongs to the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, yet Nintendo still takes down things like Pokemon Uranium.
Yeah, but Nintendo does own a third of the company, so I wonder if that's why.
But just a third.
Yeah.
Just a third. There's two companies that they would have to go through. And if there are projects, I'm not saying this is happening, but let's just say people like Junichi Masuda at the Pokemon Company does approve of some of these projects. Nintendo could easily screw themselves over like this, and I feel like that they're being a little bit unfair whenever it comes to insta-banning these projects.
Well, if they don't own the IP, or completely own it, then I could understand. Because it shouldn't be Nintendo's decision, it should be whoever owns that IP. So that...
Alright, well then let's take a look. Okay, go on.
So for the Pokemon Urim, I guess that should have been decided by the Pokemon Company itself for fair use or not Nintendo.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. Nintendo shouldn't be doing this themselves. If anything, they should be saying, we've received word from the Pokemon Company or Game Freak, not from Nintendo of America. That's where I feel like this isn't justified.
Okay, I can agree with you there. Well, let's talk about future fan projects then. What if Majora's Mask HD happened as a fan project?
It's already exists though.
Yeah, but you can't play it. I'm talking about that.
You can.
A true HD Majora's Mask?
If you want to get super technical, the 3DS version of Majora's Mask would count as an HD remake.
I mean a fan project. Like a fan made a true HD, let's say 4K Majora's Mask.
Okay.
Do you think people would buy the official Nintendo Majora's Mask over the 4K Majora's Mask project?
But how far is Nintendo willing to take Majora's Mask? That's the question for this. If we look back at the Metroid remake, we have no word or no sighting of there being a Metroid 2 remake. Because as we all know, to anything as far as we know, the only upcoming Metroid game is Metroid Federation Force, which, first of all, it doesn't even have anything to do with Samus. And second of all, you say you would play ROMs of the games that already exist. So what's the difference between playing a fan project? Fan projects don't do this for, like, cash or anything.
Oh,
they're just as equivalent to ROMs.
I never said I wouldn't play the fan project. I'm more upset with Nintendo losing money, even though I take away money from Nintendo.
Well, then, that's where you're... Okay, so that's where you're kind of stabbing yourself.
I know. I'm basically making an argument for something I'm doing myself. I forget the word for that.
Like a double-edged sword, basically.
Yeah. Like I said, we all want Murder 3, but I had no plans of buying it because I played the ROM. So the more people who think like me, the less money Nintendo gets.
Exactly, but Nintendo has no future plans of making Mother 3. I will admit,
as far as
we know, they have no plans to release an English translation of Mother 3. But as for now, is Nintendo really losing money? It's like it's like, how is Mother 3 competing with Mother 2 and Mother 1 if they both have two different stories, consist of two different characters, and are on two different consoles on that hand?
Which is more popular?
I would honestly say Earthbound.
At this point,
let's be honest. When we saw NES and Melee in '64, it blew up.
Personally, I like Mother 3 more. It just has a better...
Oh, no, undoubtedly, Mother 3 is, like, more better, but let's be honest. Who knows, like, NES's game and his history more than Lucas's? Like, when you really think about it... Yeah, for now, but when you really think about it, NES has more of the knowledge. Like, fans know more about NES than they do about Lucas, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, was Mother 2 ever ported to the US back in the day?
Yeah, it was.
That's why. Wait till Mother 3 gets ported over, if it ever happens.
Okay, so then that's where your whole ROM debate becomes invalid. Because it's like, this is the point to where we have to wait to see if it'll become more popular, when you're saying the ROM has already decreased sales.
Yeah, it's true. I guess we will have to wait and see. At this point, it's a theory. Of course, how many people buy virtual consoles over ROMs? Like, if there was no ROMs, how many more people would buy those virtual games on a Nintendo console?
I mean, that's...
Like the NES Mini that's coming out. I have no plans on getting it. I own all those ROMs.
Exactly. So that's also where you're kind of countering yourself. It's like, you're basically telling yourself, well, not really telling yourself, but the way that you play your ROMs is affecting the NES, like the mini NES's sales. But this is where the Mother 3 would kind of be pretty much a useless argument. If everybody else has the ROMs and has access to the ROMs, what's the point of making the mini NES? And I'm pretty sure Nintendo knows this.
I didn't say they would lose all sales, but I wonder how much more it would sell if there was no ROMs.
That's where it's true. That's where it's true, but in the end, that kind of supports... I mean, I don't know what that supports, really. I don't know if that supports me or if that supports you.
Yeah. There's also one other thing. How come people are so confused about Wii and Wii U? How many people are going to get confused between a real Mario game, a real Metroid game, and a fan project?
The platforms. That's something you missed. It's the platforms, dude. Fan projects are all on PC. There's no fan project Nintendo game that is on a Nintendo platform.
Okay, you got a point there. But some people get confused so easily, so I can understand your logic, but I don't understand the logic of some people. So I'm thinking they would still be confused, like, especially with Nintendo going mobile now. Imagine how many Nintendo mobile rip-offs we're gonna get in the future.
But there's already one, dude. Freaking, there is already one.
Besides Flappy Birds.
Oh yeah, I know. There's a horrible, horrible Pokemon Go knockoff. It is disgusting.
Yeah, see? And if Nintendo ever puts anything on PC, there's going to be even more confusion then.
But I wouldn't really think that they would tackle that kind of area. I mean, me personally myself, seeing how Nintendo is a bit of a family-orientated company, I don't think that they would ever like try to tackle such like a platform that has so many like hardcore games like League of Legends, games on Steam like Gary's Mod, games that Microsoft makes themselves that are PC compatible.
Anyone see them going on mobile a few years ago?
I saw them. I completely saw it, and I knew that they would dominate the mobile market.
I never saw it.
Because when you really like see it, they've already tackled handheld gaming, and that's portable gaming as itself. So if they really wanted to move on to expand like their power from how much they dominate handheld gaming, of course mobile gaming was an easy sight, especially since sorry, I couldn't speak. In 2015 it was revealed that smartphones and tablets were the #1 source of mobile gaming.
Yeah, but they might also do some things for PC. I'm not talking about releasing new titles, but maybe their old virtual games. I mean, most people play virtual games on their computer anyways.
So then that is exactly where ROMs would come into your side. That's when, like, the second they would release a PC game, that's when ROMs and fan projects would start to compete. But as for now, I see no way how fan projects are competing with the Nintendo consoles.
Well, I guess it depends if the fans do it better than Nintendo. I mean, look how many people complained about how Twilight Princess from Nintendo wasn't as good as the fan project, even though some people debated both ways. Some people would have rather played the fan project than the official Twilight Princess HD from Nintendo.
But the only way that was justified for Nintendo was that they actually had a remake in the works.
Yeah, but what if Nintendo decided to do a remake 5 years down the line and didn't announce it until 5 years down the line? We can't predict the future of what Nintendo will do for remakes.
Well, then I feel like until that they fully announce to the public that there is going to be a Twilight Princess HD, it's not justified.
But if a fan already makes it, is there a reason for Nintendo to make it themselves?
Not until Nintendo fully announces it to the public. If Nintendo's not willing to say, hey, we're planning to make an HD remake, so can you please like kind of take this down or at least keep it on the down low so this way we can make our own sales while you can keep your downloads, it just doesn't make sense how they could do something like that.
Okay, so if Nintendo is planning on making a HD Skyward Sword in the year 2021, they should announce that right now for anybody who wants to make a Skyward Sword HD remake.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they should tackle it ahead of time. I'm just saying they should tackle it the second it becomes public, because that's when it would become a problem.
But Nintendo doesn't know its future.
Let's use that as an example. Skyward Sword. Let's say it comes HD. It comes out in 2020. Is it a threat right now if there was a fan project, like completely finished, released right now? Would it really affect sales 5 years later?
If they remove motion controls in the fan project, and Nintendo has no plans on removing those motion controls, then yes, big time. Because that held the game back.
Okay, but let's say Nintendo also removed those motion controls. Let's say Nintendo actually ended up making it better 4 years down the line. Or worse even. Would it affect sales now?
No, but in the future, yes.
In the future, yes, but at that time, they would have already had it taken down, or people would pretty much have already played it to their desire. It doesn't take 4 years to beat Skyward Sword.
But people would have complained now that Nintendo shut down another fan project that had no remake in the works at this time.
Exactly, and I'm not saying they take it down. I'm saying they take it down further down the line as Skyward Sword HD from Nintendo becomes public.
But you can't take it down once enough people get their hands on it. They're going to spread it around the internet and constantly spread it with their friends.
That's what people have already done with Uranium.
Yes.
And that's what people have already done with the ROMs.
Yeah, so there is no shutting it down completely, only slowing it down.
Exactly. But the fact that they slowed it down and had to discourage the creators, when Nintendo themselves should know other people are eventually going to get their hands on it, it's, first of all, not justified for them to have taken it down in the first place, but they should know people are going to get their hands on it one way or another.
Yeah, but not as many, not as fast, and they should have acted before it went public.
Exactly. So
they're late to the party.
Exactly.
But
so once it's finished, like, look, Nintendo had 10 years to take down the Metroid 2 remake. Nintendo had 9 years to take down Uranium, but they did not. They let Pokemon go through 2 generations, and they let Metroid go through 2 5-year anniversaries. But they did nothing about the project.
Yeah, but you just said that Nintendo needs to take down these fan projects before they finish. Therefore, fan project, you're not against.
But they had 10 years to do so. They had 10 years to take down both of these projects, but they did nothing until the creators of the games and fan projects finished their work and finally made it public. When the creators themselves had made the projects public, people have known about these projects, but yet Nintendo finally decides to act on them when it's too late.
Okay, now I think we're actually in agreement. I can completely agree with you now that it was wrong for Nintendo to take down the project at this point with all that hard, dedicated work to it.
Thank you. I mean, in the end, that's all that I really found unjustified. The fact that Nintendo is actually willing to take these projects down after all this work. After all, that is what I said at the beginning of this video, at the beginning of my videos.
I missed that.
And that's what I said ticked me off the most.
Huh. Did not expect that.